often say that games are not played on paper. There's reasons why you play the game. Nonetheless, with Michigan playing Michigan State this upcoming Saturday, big rivalry game doesn't feel the same as it normally does. And perhaps that's because one team is somewhat ascending and the other is descending. But how do they match up? Let's talk about where Michigan and Michigan State are on the page by the numbers on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire. Through USA Today Sports Media Group, I can tell that my voice is a little stronger. It's still not there, so understand that I very well could be gravelly and whispering by the end of this as I continue to deal with laryngitis. All right, let's get right into it. Later, we're going to talk a little bit about some comments that Tyler Morris made on Tuesday night, and then I want to kind of hit a little bit more on the recruiting piece. But segment one, let's talk about where Michigan and Michigan State are by the numbers. As I went and compiled for Wolverines Wire, I haven't done this all year. I haven't done it since, I don't think, Alabama or Washington, one of those two games in the playoff last year. It was alarming, obviously, to see where Michigan is when you look just at every number. But it's almost like it's funny because Michigan State is kind of right there along with them in most places. The biggest discrepancy being Michigan State is a better passing team. And replacing some of the numbers, because I copied from the Rose Bowl, just to use that as a template, right? Like, so I'm going in and say, okay, this is, that way, you know, you're not starting from scratch. You've got all of your tables and everything set. And seeing where Michigan's defense was, I mean, even the offense, but seeing where particularly Michigan's defense was on January 1st compared to where it is now is shocking and appalling in a lot of ways. There was only really like one place where it wasn't much different. Actually, two was rushing. Michigan, I think, was like 6th in rushing yards allowed at that time, and now they're 9th. That wasn't like a big change. The only other place that was like shocking was actually the other way, was sacks, because at that time Michigan had 44 sacks and were like 60th in the country, and now they're 18th in the country with 28. So they're getting home a lot more. They're not that far off from them. Actually, I think they had 38 sacks at that point or something like that. It was like they only needed like 10 more to get to that point. So they're getting home more, but it's not really mattering in a lot of ways. All right. Michigan's passing offense, as you can imagine, is one of the best in the country. It's just blowing everybody out of the water. 130th out of 134 teams going up against the 31st ranked pass defense. Now, Michigan has seen tougher pass defenses. Washington is currently ranked number 1. Texas is ranked number 2, and Minnesota is ranked number 4. So I know Michigan helps their numbers out a bit, but I mean, these are consistent numbers essentially in a lot of ways. So there's that. And then they'll play number 12 Ohio State. And Indiana is 23, I think. Did I mention this in here? No, I didn't. Oh, maybe I did. But I guess I didn't. But I remembered seeing that, so I wrote that somewhere, but not in this article. But MSU is it's one of the better pass defenses in the country, and it's somewhat middling. They allow 192 yards per game. So Michigan, you got to figure it out, man. You've got to figure out how to get some yards against this Michigan State team. It's pretty good compared to where Michigan is, the 97th pass defense. But certainly, like, when you look and you say, okay, they allow 192 yards a game. Okay, Michigan, by all means, because you're only getting 128 yards a game, the Michigan offense. Rushing offense for Michigan, 45th in the country, actually higher than what because averaging 180 yards a game, was averaging 160 yards a game last year. So a little bit better. They're 45th in the country, going up against the 53rd best rushing defense, allowing 131 yards a game. Michigan and Michigan State are very similar offensively in a lot of ways. You inverse some of the numbers. We'll get to that, I guess, in a minute. But one of the reasons I say that is Michigan State's offense is scoring. This is 110th in the country. Michigan's 112th. So Michigan's averages 21 points a game, and Michigan State allows 21 points a game. 112th scoring offense against the 39th scoring defense. Michigan is 118th in total offense, averaging 308 yards a game, going up against the number 29 total defense, 323 yards allowed per game. Michigan averages 16.4 first downs a game, 120th in the country. Michigan State allows 18 first downs a game, 37th. Michigan is 84th in third down conversions, hovering around 38%. Michigan State allows 43%, 110. Michigan's 98th in red zone conversions, 78.5%, and it manages to 63% touchdowns in the red zone, 63rd in the country. MSU is 15th in the country and allows 73% of red zone conversions, 90th in the country, allowing 63 of those red zone attempts to be touchdowns. Michigan is 44th in the country, allowing 34 tackles for loss. Michigan State has 42 tackles for loss allowed. The other way. 34 allowed tackles for loss. Michigan State's got 42 tackles for loss. Sacks, Michigan's 60th in the country, having allowed 13 sacks. Michigan State has 15 sacks on the year. Going to the other side of the ball, it's Michigan State averages 233 yards a game. In the pass game, 67th in the country, right around where Michigan was last year, actually. And Michigan allows, I'm all bottled up here. Michigan allows 234 yards per game, 97th in the country. So they're basically like, yeah, you're going to get 234 yards. That's what you're going to do. Rushing games, MSU is getting better, and this number has gone up the last couple weeks. But they're 90th in rushing offense right now. They're averaging 133 yards a game. Michigan allows 92 yards per game, 9th in the country. Scoring, Michigan State averages 21.6 points. It's 110th in the country. Michigan allows 22.1 points per game, 50th in the country. So holding them to a point, Michigan's going to have to, right now it's kind of looking like a 21-21 game. They're kind of like right there. Michigan State averages 367 yards per game. That's 91st in the country. Michigan allows 326 yards per game. That's 34th in the country. Michigan State averages 20 first downs a game, 83rd in the country. Michigan's defense allows 18.9 first downs a game, 60th. Third down conversions. Okay, well, I'm done with the numbers. I know some people get bored with the numbers. Some people love this, right? I get like both comments on these types of episodes. People are like, thank you for sharing this. Like, and then you get people like, this is stupid that you're doing this, which is why we're doing more than this episode. But generally, like, they're pretty even in every way, right? Like, it's kind of like Michigan does this, Michigan State allows that same thing. There's not many places that you can sit there and find like, okay, this is the place where you shut things down. It really kind of is. Michigan needs to play into what Michigan State allows in terms of passing. And they need to stop Michigan State in terms of running the football. That's kind of most of it. Didn't get really into much here. Turnover margin, they're about the same. Michigan State has one extra turnover compared to where Michigan is, but they both have turned the ball over 15 times. Whoever turns the ball over the least is probably going to win this game. But lately, Michigan has not gotten a lot of takeaways, so I'm not feeling super confident as far as that. You hope home field advantage accounts for something. Now, one thing that I will know, ESPN SP Plus, that's Bill Connolly's advanced analytics, has still, after 7 games, says Michigan is the number 24 team in the country with the number 74 offense and number 10 defense. Weirdly, Michigan State, despite getting more yards and statistically being better, MSU is the number 72 team, the number 101 offense, and the number 29 defense. So it's not like we're sitting here, like the advanced analytics still say Michigan is technically better. When you look at the matchup predictor, Michigan is still favored to win heavily by ESPN's matchup predictor, 67%. So is what it is. But it's going to require a lot of the offense being a lot better than it has been. And we're going to talk about some of the things that Tyler Morris was saying this week. Let's talk about that here in just a moment. But before we do, hey, NFL fans, season is well underway, and you can get a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same exact page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. I will tell you what. I've never had laryngitis before, and it's very confusing to me. Like, I still have an occasional cough, but I'm not sick really anymore. And I haven't been for like a week. I mean, I have some days, like I didn't feel that good yesterday and decided more so because my voice, I'm like, I just don't want to talk to people. Got to do the podcast on top of doing the Bleacher Report live stream. And I'm like going somewhere and talking to people and all of that. I'm like, I feel like it's better served resting. But it's bizarre because it's like I feel normal. I wake up, I feel normal, and then I go to try to talk to Zuri, and I talk to my dog mostly in falsetto, like a little cutesy pet voice, and I try to talk to her, and it's just like, it just comes out squeaky. Like I can't do it. I literally can't. So it's very confusing to me. But I rest assured, I feel normal. I just can't talk. That's literally all it is. I can't talk. I wanted to talk about this quote. I had asked Tyler Morris this on Tuesday night. I asked Tyler, I said, do you feel like the offense is performing well in practice, but it's just not translating to games? And he said, let's see, where is it? Yeah, at times I do, because there's times when in practice when we look real good and we just got to apply it more to a game, where we're messing up the small details that we're good with all week in practice. So I just think it comes with calming down a little bit during the games and going out and executing. That's really all I see, because we have more than enough time during the week to get things right. And there's been times where we've executed all week, and then there's been something out there in the game. Obviously, part of that is turnovers. Michigan's just turned it over, except for in one game. Michigan's turned it over twice every single game. Do I have that right? I think I do. Let me see if that. I don't know if I can look this up or not without just doing this like the hard way. But I probably have to do it the hard way. But I do believe that's okay. Yeah, turnover margin. I mean, they were positive in turnover margin in the first week. So actually, the first week they lost one. That was it. And then against Minnesota, they lost one. But this is where we're looking at here. So total lost 1, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. And they've only been positive they were positive against Fresno State. They were positive against USC, and they were positive against Minnesota. Because I shouldn't say positive against USC. Both teams had 2 turnovers. But otherwise, like Texas, they didn't get any turnovers. They got 1 against Arkansas State, but otherwise were -2 in turnovers. Against Minnesota, they gained 2 turnovers, but lost the 1 interception. They were -1 against Washington and -3 against Illinois, because Illinois didn't turn the ball over. So that's a big reason why, right? Because Davis Warren, by all accounts of people that I've talked to, say that he didn't turn the ball over at all in fall camp. One of the big reasons why he won the job. That's another reason why I advocate for Alex Orji. He's turned the ball over the least of anybody, because Jack Tuttle in 2 games has had 2 interceptions, really should have probably been 3, and 2 fumbles. And that's another reason people get like really upset when I say I think Alex Orji, well, he doesn't have this, number one, we don't really know because they haven't asked him to do a lot of the things that they've asked the other 2 quarterbacks to do. Number 2, like, you just cannot win games with these numbers. I wish but I can't see my screen, but you cannot win games that way. Every single game on this list, even Texas, was technically winnable because the problem is you were -3 in turnovers, and those came early in the game, right? Like if you're going to half, like they scored late, that last touchdown, they were down, Michigan was down, 17-3, whatever it was. You score a touchdown on that drive, you go into the half, getting the ball back, down 17-10, right? Like, but they turned the ball over twice in the first half. So you cannot win games that way. You're going to end up in the position that they're in every single game. They don't turn the ball over against USC, that game's more of a blowout. They don't turn the ball over against Minnesota, that game's more of a blowout. They don't turn the ball over against Washington. Like the offense, it has the opportunities, but it doesn't have the opportunities because they're running less plays in a lot of ways, because they're turning the ball over a lot of these times. So in terms of passing attempts, I mean, Michigan's actually 121st in the country. They are attempting more passes than you would expect for what Michigan is good at, but it's still like much further down the list in terms of passing attempts. As far as total plays are concerned, I don't know that I can look this up quickly yet. I guess I can. In terms of amount of plays that Michigan's had, I gotta look this up. That's 109th. Again, they're right by Michigan State because Michigan State turns the ball over the equal amount. What does that tell you? Michigan State's had, see, where's my place here? 433 offensive plays. Michigan's had 430. Both have turned the ball over 15 times this year through 7 games. So that's the big thing. But you feel like at some point there's going to be a regression to the mean, right? If you're not turning the ball over in practice, and we've heard all about like this high flying practice, that's like these reports of like maybe the offense is going to actually take a step forward. That didn't come out of thin air and just wishful thinking. And I know there's a lot of rival people say, we tried to tell you and everything. Part of it is that things are looking good in practice based off of conversations I've had. And then they get to games and it just doesn't look the same at all. And part of that to me is where like the coaching staff has to be smart. Like we've talked about for a while, like feeding the hot hands. So what are the hot hands? They're the ones that do well in games. So throw it to Colston. If Marion Walker gets a big catch, go right back to the well. That's the thing that they need to do instead of just like, well, this guy looked really good in practice, but it's not translating to games. Like maybe like, yeah, you go to a guy that had a really big week in practice, but if like you try to throw it and the ball hits him in the hands and he drops it, something like that, doesn't make a catch when it's like within his radius, which we didn't really see a lot of last week, but we've seen it this year. Guys dropping balls and things like that. Like that's kind of one of the things we talked about earlier in the season was receivers not helping the quarterback. And then this is kind of where it's like, okay, I personally want to go to Alex Orji for everything that it like hamstrings the offense in some ways. But also I think it just also makes the decision making for the coaching staff that much better and easier. Also doesn't turn the ball over, but I'm not going to begrudge you if you think that they should go back to Davis Warren and say, all right, we hopefully we've taught him enough to throw the ball away or take the sack, because otherwise he was doing pretty good. I mean, they've got to at least figure out what they need to do in terms of that. All right, I want to talk a little recruiting. Really, I just want to talk about Bryce Underwood because he's consuming a lot of my focus and attention in some ways. So we will talk about that here in just a moment. But before we do, listen, there's one way that you can have fun. I know a lot of you aren't having a good time right now with the Michigan football season. But you can have a little extra fun by playing PrizePicks. Now, what is PrizePicks? PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. It's the best place to get real money sports action. Like I said, and PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash up if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And one of the fun things is you can play PrizePicks alongside with Drewski. Drewski as in, I don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide, baby. I can almost do it, almost. Joe Budden and MMA champ Sean O'Malley. You can find them under Community Plays in the Promos tab. So check that out. It's a heck of a lot of fun. So download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege and you get $50 off instantly after you place your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, I'm increasingly losing my voice. That is where we are at. This is starting to feel like something that's just never going to get better. So you're just going to have to deal with this gravelly sound. I mean, if I talk like this, then it's actually really easy. But that feels very unnatural. So like I kind of touched on this before, but we had a solo show 2 days ago. But I'm starting to hear more and more rumblings from, official and unofficial sources about Bryce Underwood. And what are the chances that he comes to Michigan, actually flips? I mean, it's hard to say. Absolutely hard to say, but there's going to be people. I mean, I'm on the boards. I see, there's people. He was never coming here and stuff like that. Okay, that could end up being true in terms of does he end up coming to Michigan or not. But I will say Michigan is now pulling out all the stops in ways that it never has before. And it is something that there's real smoke. I've talked to multiple people. There is real smoke to this. Does he ultimately decide to make the flip? That's something that remains to be seen. I mean, LSU, where he is currently committed, is a much more stable environment at the moment than Michigan is. But, Michigan's, there has to be some kind of appeal. The fact that he was considering Michigan in the first place. Michigan's in dire straits, and it's 10 miles down the road from where he plays high school ball at Belleville. Right? Like, you can be the hometown hero. Michigan absolutely needs to find a way to pull it out. And I know Portnoy is involved in all of this. I've heard that that's going rather well. But they need to find a way to make it happen because you need a quarterback more than anything right now. And I understand you have Carter Smith committed. He's a little bit more of a developmental prospect at this point. Brady Hart is more of the plug and play. He's more of the JJ, I'm ready. Carter Smith is a little bit more like sit 2 years and hopefully everything works out. Bryce Underwood's more of a plug and play. Year one, I don't know, but like that, you've seen kind of like Nico Iamaleava, I can't even try, or Dylan Raiola, right? Like you've seen sometimes where a first year guy can come in and do what they do. So you don't really want that necessarily, but if you can find a way to surround him with talent in terms of like going out and getting the best wide receiver prospects in the transfer portal, making sure you have a solid offensive line, you've got running backs, Jordan Marshall, if he can be healthy, which he hasn't been so far this year. Others, Cole Cabana, who also hasn't been healthy, Benjamin Hall, who has been healthy. Some of those guys that are going to be available next year. You can increase your offense. I think they need to change entirely the offensive philosophy if you're going to be able to get him, which, like, could playing to Steve Dace's point yesterday, could be a big reason why you're seeing the offense trying to like sling it a little bit, even though like they are not wired for it. Just to be like, look, we're trying to. We just need a guy like you. But there is real smoke to this Bryce Underwood deal. Does it happen? I've gotten no indication as of yet. I haven't talked to the one person that would tell me straight that would know. I didn't get a chance to talk to them at Illinois. So if we don't get some kind of answer between now and the game on Saturday, hopefully I'll be able to get that answer. But it does feel like there's some real legit legs to it. And I know there's a lot of people out there that want to act like, well, this is just not going to happen because it hasn't happened. That type of stuff hasn't really happened for Michigan. But if you're Sharon Moore, particularly, like, you need this win way more than Brian Kelly needs his, right? Like, Brian Kelly needs his, but like LSU is going to attract more top offensive talent just in general because of what it's been able to do. You can pitch, Bryce with hometown hero mixed with copious amounts of cash, mixed with NIL deal, mixed with all kinds of things. Like, Michigan technically should be able to service him from an NIL perspective much better than LSU can. So it's about getting your head out of these dark, head in the sand places and like going all out in every single way that you can. So we'll see if they have enough to do it, but there is real smoke to it. All right. We will be back on Friday. The plan is, I know we keep on saying what plans are. We're supposed to have Jake Butt, Devin Gardner, and some of these others. But right now, the plan for tomorrow is Bryce Marich to talk recruiting tomorrow. We'll see if that happens. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again soon. Peace.